Be right back.
Okay. Yeah, good plan. And Mike, since you're there, can you hear me?
Hey, David, it's Kurt. I can hear you.
Oh, how'd you get up? Okay, go figure.
Snuck in.
Good deal. All right, so there's that. I'm going to put the links posted here.
I'll be sure and stay muted. I'm coffee shopping today.
Okay, cool. I think Mike sent you his link because
He did.
all right, because you got his name. I'm like, what's this identity theft thing going on here?
Oh, I see.
Here, let's do this. Good.
There's a familiar guy. Hey, Tony.
Tony.
Yeah, you're looking pretty businesslike there. We're pretty relaxed up here in the mountains.
I was muted there, so here I am in audio and video.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a religious meeting tonight, so that's why I figured. I just got back from the doctor, and I was tired of getting changed 3 times, so I'll get changed twice.
I moved to a new place, or I bought a townhouse in the mountain. I'm at 8,500 feet outside Woodland Park, about 15 minutes north of, or 15 minutes from downtown Colorado Springs, but still up there pretty good. And so I've been, I'm changing my clothes. I got it. When this is over, I'm going to change into my painting clothes, and then I have a supermodel painter that I found. That I always work harder when she's around. She's 28. She has the energy of 3 people. She's painted half my house, so it's great.
That's great. That's great.
I mean, I get workers here sometimes. She walks in and they just their jaws drop. It's incredible. But I found her on Nextdoor.com. Her cat. She had a cat surgery that cost $7,000.
I'm sorry. I heard Nextdoor.com. My mind went down a different path than what I think you intended me to think of.
Oh yeah. But anyway, she answered my ad because I was asking if someone would come help me unpack. And then she offered to do that. And then once I met her, her family owned a lot of real estate. She's a handy woman. She can fix anything, and she's a really good painter. So I said, all right, let's do it.
Sounds like my wife.
Yeah. It's more fun to do something with somebody for sure, especially manual labor. All right. We're ready. I'm ready.
All right, then we are ready. All right, everybody, welcome back. I'm David Kinder, and I've got my special guest, Sid Walker, with me today. By the way, if you're wondering where the heck am I, I'm at an Airbnb. My house is getting worked on, so my lighting ain't so good and whatever else, but we're going to make this happen. So let me introduce Sid. If you didn't catch him last month, you could go to my YouTube channel. You can find the YouTube video that we did last month on prospecting and call reluctance issues. We're going to be talking today about fact finding and discovery sessions. But Sid is the champion of the relationship building style of selling and self-promotion. The concept of pushing people to buy is an ambush. Your main job today is to help the client make informed decisions that feel right to the client. This low-key approach is accompanied by interviewing the client, educating the client on the best solutions for their situation, and ongoing communication to facilitate the best possible result for the client while putting the client's interest first. Sid has been a peak performance sales coach to over 5,000 sales executives for the past 35 years. His specialty has been financial advisors and residential real estate agents. He regularly helps sales professionals double their incomes within a few months and has helped many clients exceed $1 million of annual income. Sid is an Amazon best-selling author with 7 books on topics including overcoming call reluctance and the fear of self-promotion, a very long title, by the way, but if you find it, you'll know what I mean. Interviewing to get more client commitment, how to develop the confidence to prospect for bigger clients, and how to get on a roll and stay on a roll in a sales career. Everybody, welcome Sid Walker, and take it away. And we'll do it like we did last time. As questions come in, we'll interrupt, and we'll go from here. So,
All right, sounds good. All right, well, that was a good introduction. Thank you. I don't have to say too much there. I think because I assume we've got mostly financial advisors on this call. Is that right?
financial advisors, insurance agent, people that are doing things at a higher level, I would say.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, just in general, just from sales contextual sales group, it's more intangible sales, it sounds like, which is my specialty. I've done that all my career. I was in the life insurance business right out of college. And that was an interesting, then I found out I had call reluctance. And of course, I've become an expert on that. I'm probably the top guy on the planet on that. Lots of resources there. That's mostly what I do now. But for decades, I've been a speaker and a coach, and my big website, sellingwithoutwrestling.com. That's free now. I made that free a few years ago, but I used to charge $50 a month for that. But there's 100 hours of audio and video on there on the low-key approach to selling financial services. So check that out. And then also I probably got 7 websites, but those are the 2 main: sellingwithoutwrestling.com and then conquercallreluctance.com is the other one. That's what I'm mostly doing these days. I just came out with an internet course last year on called Fearless Prospecting. That's actually at fearless-prospecting.com. I'm really proud of that. Kind of the latest and greatest on getting yourself on the phone. Dave and I were talking about that before. I've really gotten good at language for people on the phone.
Yes, and we're going to take good notes on what because as I mentioned, I'm the wordy guy. As you can tell right now, I'm the wordy guy. And when you came up with what you said earlier, it was so classic, so concise, so clear, and it was only a few words. I'm like, I need the notes on that. And Mike Moffat, you can attest to that, I know.
So we'll see. We'll kind of talk for a while, and then we can come back to that, or I can give you a couple examples. But I've been doing that all day long. I'm helping people with their phone language. So. Because this today is a little more on interviewing, which I don't talk about as much these days. But of course, I've got massive resources between Selling Without Wrestling. My best-selling book, which is on Amazon, is How to Double Your Sales by Asking a Few More Questions. Mm-hmm. I wrote that in '92, I think. I've never updated it. I might, but it's all about getting to the feeling level, really, because that's kind of the key. And just to talk about that a little bit in terms of, I'm just going to give some highlights of some of the things, I've been coaching for I'm 71. I started coaching when I was 25. I started making money at about 29. I had Fortune 500 clients before I was 30. And the corporate world was interesting. The money was great. And I was helping, I had an outplacement firm in Denver, helping executives get new jobs, usually because they got fired. It was never lack of performance. It was always political. Some president would bring in his own team, and then there'd be an odd man out, and they would give them a severance package and my firm to help them get a new job and try to avoid lawsuits too, wrongful termination stuff. So I never had any lawsuits. I always convinced everybody I could get them a better job for more money. So that always happened.
At least it happened. That's the good part.
Yeah. That was interesting. I learned a lot doing that. That was the hot seat because it's way more intense, especially at the executive level, to fire somebody. The people that I'd have to go in and coach them. Here, I'm a pretty young guy, but I had a partner who was a psychologist, who's 15 years older, so I had him as backup. But it was interesting work because anybody who had to do the firing was always nervous about doing it. Nobody likes doing that, and especially if you're firing somebody that's making a lot of money and has got a key role. Most of the time these guys went to work for the competition anyway, but that was an interesting thing where I basically say, don't go over 3 minutes. Don't get into a discussion about anything. It's just, we appreciate your contribution and things just aren't a match at this point. Get the credit cards and the keys and, get it over with. So the total opposite of interviewing people for financial services, you want to, that's kind of, to me, I still work with some new agents. I had a New York Life guy that hired me last year. and of course singing my praises. I got him. He was in the business about 4 years and doing okay. Young guy, he's got a young family, but he had two $30,000 months after he started with me in November and December. So he was pretty happy. He said he had a great Christmas,
Yeah.
Just a lot of little stuff, because the life insurance business in particular, which has been my favorite for a long time, and the training's horrible. I mean, they all say they have the best training, but 97% of the people fail. How good can it be? So I have a 97% success rate. Not the only people that I don't help go back to their old job. And I've even had people hire me over the years to say, I want to figure out if I can do this job in 90 days rather than go through my savings over the next 5 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's a pretty smart approach, because
It's one of the things I tell people too is before you find a company, find the training, hire the training, and then find your company. Now you're actually coming from a position of power saying, I've already got training. What do you have for me? So
I've actually had a couple smart 20 somethings hire me before they went full time. Unbelievable. They both made 100 grand the first year,
nice.
which is unusual. So, but again, I'm teaching people basically. I've been a sales coach my whole career, and I'm teaching people how not to sell. I mean, that's the part that's always been fun, because it's more, that selling without wrestling finally came to me one day, practically just popped into my head. But for years, I was trying to come up with a name for what I'm doing, but that worked really well. But it's really all about shifting your orientation away from trying to talk people into stuff to basically helping people figure out what they want and then help them get it. So it's really, I mean, my average client's got over a 90% closing ratio without using any sales technique. And that's not man on the street. That's not like an Al Granum 10-3-1 kind of thing. Because I mean, Al Granum, God bless him, but he had no people skills whatsoever. So 10-3-1 is kind of, if you can speak, you can probably produce that, because I have over 500 Northwestern clients. They laugh at that 10-3-1 number, because they're all way over that. Because again, the financial services business, if you're going in and helping people figure out what they want to do, and you get on their side, I guess I've seen that. The difference is because there's still a lot of pushy sales training being done, but as soon as you push somebody, you lose 70% of the people. They're not going to do anything. So I used to make that joke. It wasn't very funny to people, but I said the good news is, folks, that 30% of the people are going to buy no matter how much you get in the way. So you can make a living no matter what here. So, but you could triple that income if you take a little different approach, which to me is more, well, they teach all these people still to do a fact finder as a way to develop a relationship. To me, that's just horrible. I tell people, do not do a fact finder in the first interview.
No, Sid. Okay. When I talked with Sid earlier, I know that he's going to have some mic or some connectivity issues. So, I think, yeah. Sid, you just froze there for us just a second.
All right. Well, did I freeze for everybody else or just David?
Yeah, that was one heck of a cliffhanger, man. I'll tell you.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, so anyway, I'm just talking about not doing don't start out with a fact finder as a way to connect with people. So I've got on Selling Without Wrestling, you get on there. Let's see. I guess I can share my screen, right?
Let me make sure you can. There you are. Go ahead.
All right. Let me try that. Let me see if I can. I'll just say share the whole thing. Let me see if I can find that. I put it on here somewhere. There it is. So that's Selling Without Wrestling. There's a pitch page before that, but if you get all you need is a username and password, and you can get in there. Like I said, there's 100 hours of audio and video on there. But I'm doing the stuff, the core training. Well, actually, hang on, let me get in here. Oh shoot, that's not what I was expecting there. Hang on, it was there a minute ago. Where'd it go? Huh? Let me see. View. we'll come back to this. This didn't work the way I thought it was going to. Apologize. Always show. Let me move this guy here. So Sid sites, master access. There we go. All right. So I've got a core training in here. That's $1,000 course I did for years. That was very popular on the low key approach. You see, it's got audio and handouts, and I put a lot of time into that. So it's a great course. I mean, I tell people that's 5 years worth of information in 6 hours. The supplemental training, those are a lot of webinars I've done over the years. I think it's number 4 here. Quick connection track review. That's the one. If you want to, that's a good review of some of the stuff we're talking about today. That's the interviewing track. And then there's another one. 5 is on closing. I only do 26 minutes on closing, because basically, if you're doing this right, you're helping people figure out what they want to do. You're getting on their side right in the first meeting. The close is a formality, typically. So hang on, let's see. Then the other thing that's pretty handy, there's a lot of stuff on here, but the handout archive, that's got a lot of stuff on interviewing. That's all the way to the right. There's a closing presentation format. There's a template for that. Tons of handouts. So anyway, a lot of resources here. So I guess I can leave that up for the moment. Well, can you still see me?
Yeah, I've got you in my top right corner.
Yeah, okay. Let me see what happens here. If I click on that, does that change? No. All right. I got everybody on there. All right. So basically, when I think about the interviewing, the main thing I wanted to show you was that number 4 is on the quick connection track, and over here in the archive, that's the place that's all written out. There it is, number 16, quick connection track. Take a look at that. I've been teaching that for 35 years. Because it's all about when you start to talk with people, the most important thing is, basically.
All right. I'm not letting anybody else in. That's it. I'm sorry. That was insane.
Yeah, no problem. That's wild.
I'm going to do some copy and pasting, and I'm going to not let this be published on YouTube. I'll do some editing and.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's YouTube trolls. You know what's crazy? My principal's wedding was Zoomed. He did a Zoom meeting because it was during the pandemic, and somebody actually hacked his meeting, and they were like singing all kinds of weird songs and stuff during his wedding. So there's something that happens online. I'm not sure why.
The only good news is I'm big enough to be trolled, so I appreciate the compliment, and that's the best way I could think of on that. But I'm not letting anybody else in. It's just going to be us. And anybody has comments, they can do it in the comments of wherever I'm streaming this to. This has been insane.
That just means that you're big.
I'll take that.
People deem you worthy of trolling you. That means that you're big.
This is one of my newer agents, Dave. This is Alana Jordan. She's actually in California.
Okay,
so she's joining the team. So I told her that because she feels like I'm a guru. I said, oh, no. I'm far from it. You got to see the guys that I'm learning from. So that's why I invited her.
Wonderful. Glad to have you, and I apologize for what's happened already. So
that's okay. That just lets me know that I'm where I'm supposed to be. Because if I'm the people that are getting hacked and trolled, then that means you guys are awesome, and there's a lot for me to learn. So I'm gonna look past the foolishness because there's information that I need to gain.
Perfect. There we go. That's my intention. Thank you, and please, Sid, please continue.
All right,
hopefully nothing else is going to happen.
All right, we'll give it. No big deal. That's like one of my favorite sayings is a good quarterback has to maintain the attention span of a goldfish. You got to forget the last play as fast as possible, especially if it didn't work. So anyway, so we're talking about, what you're doing in that first interview. You want to connect with people because the most important things are, does the client or the potential client feel heard and feel understood?
Mm.
That endears people to you quicker than anything else. I mean, my first book I wrote in '89, I think, is called Trusting Yourself. I changed it to Trust Your Gut later, but when I used to speak a lot, people would ask me and say, so how do you get people to trust you? And I would say, well, it's not what you think. It's not a technique as much as it is. People are hardwired to trust people that are trusting their intuition or trusting being their authentic self. So the more you can learn, that's what I've been teaching for 40 years. The more you can learn to be your authentic self in an interviewing situation, the higher your closing ratio is going to be. Because people are hardwired to trust somebody that's being intuitive in their approach. When you're doing a system, it's pretty intellectual. It can be fair. I mean, there's lots of people that love systems in this business, but I don't. I mean, my attitude's always been, I look for the more feeling oriented people as clients typically. I have some pretty analytical people as clients, but they have a pretty good feeling orientation as well. But it's really more, I tell people systems can be good, make some bullet points of some of the key parts of the system. But to me, I've been teaching, and it's my style as well. I just think you're way better if you learn everything of value and then wing it. It's way more fun for everybody. Because there's people in the financial services business that have got an answer for every question. And it's all memorized, and that's okay. I mean, everybody's got to make a living, but I can't spend more than 2 minutes with somebody like that. Okay. There's no one there. There's no one home, for me. I'm a relationship guy. I want some interaction with some real people, because you could program a computer to do some of those interviews, literally,
Question, Sid.
ChatGPT, that's the new thing out there. So
Yeah. So quick question, Sid, because I came in a little bit late. But in regards to, I guess, explaining yourself or your services or not wrestling with the client, one of my major issues that I'm having is, I start, the setting of the appointment. The client is gung ho. Then the day of, actually today, which is why I hopped on, I gave them 10 minutes to, show up late. Then I call and all of a sudden, I have a funeral to go to and an attorney and my doctor's nose fell off and all this other stuff. Is there a way that we can kind of, or not exactly a system, but maybe like a process of just, hey, look, I'm setting this time aside for you, be there.
Well, that's kind of a different subject, because you're talking about how do you make appointments more sticky? But it's, I would say the quick answer to that would be value. In other words, the more value you can establish, the language that's on my website, just look up under telephone. I think it's in section 2. It's in the handout archive. Look up under telephone language. But the typical language that I've been teaching for years is, once you get talking to people, typically what I like to do is, let's spend 45 minutes together. Let me show you what smart people are doing with their money. I'll answer any questions that you have, make a list. There's nothing to buy at this point. There's no charge for this. There's nothing to buy at this point. Typically, I can make or save people thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars just from this single meeting. I'm daring you to say no.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You just got to load up with benefits. And that doesn't mean people won't flake out on you, but the more benefits you give people, plus if they like you and like your energy, they're more likely to show up. A lot of what's taught out there is kind of this, because I do so much work on the phone with people, but it's more, well, in my own case, I mean, I'm a personal growth junkie. I've learned a lot. I have over 5,000 individual clients. Most of them are financial advisors. I mean, if people don't get who I am pretty quickly, I get bored.
Okay.
Or if they start arguing with me, I get bored. It's more, I mean, on the first call. Or actually, the other part that I tell people, if you're a relationship-oriented person, I've got 16,000 LinkedIn connections. I've called all those characters at different times. And if somebody says to me, I'm in a meeting, what do you want? How'd you get my number? What are you selling? I instantly say to those people, I'm sorry, I dialed the wrong number, and I hang up.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's like, don't mess with it. When you're doing the relationship oriented approach, you're looking for a positive, something positive needs to happen. The other thing I love to teach people is if you get into a conversation and it gets weird or gets negative or you don't like what's going on, just start pushing buttons on the phone 4 or 5 times and then hang up. No one's ever called me back in 30 years.
Wow.
Because I don't want to explain to people why I don't want to talk to them anymore.
Okay.
I just want to get off the phone. So there's lots of ways to do this. I mean, probably you hadn't thought of those two, but when you've got a no-show rate, you're probably signing up people you shouldn't be working with in the first place.
Understood.
Yeah.
I just enrolled, so now I'm going to be going through all this training.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You'll find I get emails every couple of months, people telling me I saved their career. So there's a lot on there. It's good stuff.
You're going to help my team. Alana, be soaking this stuff up, please, because we're going to go crazy.
All right. Well,
Taking notes.
Okay.
All right. So back to the interviewing. I mean, I think of a couple of things there. You've got the quick connection track. You've got a video on that. That'll teach you a lot in terms of other things you can do in that first meeting and how to get people to what I call the feeling level. Because you want to be able to say to people, okay, so you've said that the summary usually sounds something like trust is most important to you. You want somebody that'll trust, because if you have that in the long run, you're going to have somebody that's going to give you the better advice. You're going to be more successful at reaching your goals. And obviously at retirement age, you want to have the money to do whatever you want to do. You want to have the freedom to do what you want to do, spend time with the grandkids, do some traveling, play some golf, whatever it happens to be. And probably most important is if you have all those things, that'll give you a sense of security and peace of mind. And those are all the answers I got from that person. I'm reviewing. That was the way I was taught to do this. You write down their exact words, and that's what you repeat back to them. So when you summarize after the first 20 minutes of the meeting where you're answering questions, you just say, all right, so here's the deal. You work with me and I will make sure that you have, and then you summarize all the stuff that they told you that they wanted. And then you say, is that what you want? And of course they all say, well, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I want. My sales trainer back in the old days was a character. He had never wore a tie, had a Mickey Mouse watch. This is back in the 70s, but he basically would get people. He said only one guy, he said out of thousands of interviews ever said to him, well, I see what you're doing. You're asking me a bunch of questions about what I want. Then you're feeding it back to me and then asking me if I want it. Of course I'm going to say yes. People are so starving to be interviewed by someone who cares. They can't wait for the next question. So anyway, give that a shot, because I think that's one of the harder things for me to do when I'm coaching people. I got to get them to do that track a few times in order for them to find out how powerful it is. Because everything changed for me when I learned how to do it more of a Dale Carnegie style approach. My closing ratio went from 25% to 85% overnight. As a 23-year-old, it wasn't about anything other than I was connecting with people in the first meeting. And I was in the business for 2 years before I learned that track, and I've modified it considerably over the years, but it's all there. And when I learned, because when I'd spend 3 hours with people, we talk about everything under the sun, but there was no structure to it. There was no next step, whereas that track gives you a beginning, middle, and end. You're getting people excited about getting back with you because you're going to take some time and put together some recommendations, so they can't wait to get back together. And of course, the other language that's important there, I call it my opening language, which is also in the handout archive, but you want to get that in the beginning someplace, because how you set up your relationship with the client pretty much determines your closing ratio. And so the opening language usually sounds something like, I'm bringing different values to the table. I'm doing this differently than a lot of people in this business. This is not about me trying to sell you a product so you can relax. I mean, people physically relax when you say that. This is about me helping you figure out, what's important to you and figuring out what really feels right to you. And then I usually throw in something like, if anything doesn't feel right to you, we're not doing it, period. does that sound like a fair approach? I mean, people just eat it up. It's what they want. They don't know how to ask for it. They don't even know it's available. But you're basically giving them 100% veto power over the whole process. You're telling them they can say no to anything. And then another thing that's also in the track, which a lot of my clients like, is when you're giving people that kind of control over the process, you say, I'm willing to put you in control. You have total veto power. A couple of things I want from you. One is that you return my phone calls or my emails within 48 hours. And the other one is that you'll make a decision on whatever we're talking about. I don't care what the decision is, but let's make this process be about helping you figure out what you want to do that feels right. Because it just gets rid of all the sales energy. And that gets rid of a lot of the weirdness. And then because people are afraid of being sold and they've been hammered, and you're just another person they're afraid that could happen again, but they do want help and they know they need to do something. So the more you can take away all that weird sales energy, the higher your closing ratio goes. And again, this is, I started out like everybody else as a 20-something. I did exactly what they told them. I could stay for 3 hours at the kitchen table and get a check, but I'd be a hero at the Monday morning meeting, but I didn't like how I felt. So I spent most of my career this product's too amazing. Life insurance is too amazing of a product to be selling it this way. So I spent my whole career developing an approach that's putting people first, helping people get what they want. Because the product's too neat. There is no other place you can park conservative money that does all the things that a good permanent policy I like mutual companies because you get dividends. But anyway, and of course, then the 80s happened and investments showed up on the scene, and that, so probably most of my clients are doing half and half investments and in life insurance, and some do only insurance, some do only investments. But anyway, so a couple other quick little things in there. One of the things that I've noticed is, and I learned, actually, there was a guy he was top 16 all time with Northwestern. Said to me one time, we had a great time. He was a neat guy. He said people buy in the pauses. He says you can't just talk, because people aren't listening if you're just talking all the time. And so I came up with one of the questions. My favorite questions is, so Dave, I'm doing all the talking. Tell me what you're hearing. Once people realize there's going to be a test, they start paying attention. And you want to get that in early, because otherwise they're thinking about what they're going to have for lunch. They're sitting there nodding their head, going, "Oh yeah," they're not really hearing what you're saying. And then you end up with somebody that wants to think about it. Whatever you've done, which we're trying to avoid. The other thing, of course, I'm big on answering questions. Occasionally, especially with a guy, you can ask a feeling-oriented question, like, why is that important to you? Which is probably one of the most important questions. I mean, that will double your closing ratio all by itself. I wrote a whole book on that. It's called How to Double Your Sales by Asking a Few More Questions, and a lot of that's on my website. But basically, you double your closing ratio if you get people to verbalize why they want something. What do you want and why do you want it? Because all your reasons are going to pale in comparison to why they want something. And there's something about when you speak and you say you want something, everything changes. There's a commitment that happens. It's magic. Because I have people that do really well. They have a high closing ratio, and then sometimes they'll get kind of lazy and stop asking some of the key questions, and and their closing ratio goes down. Because if you're getting people to verbalize why you want something, that's going to close the sale more than anything else. It's not about all the details. Obviously, the numbers need to add up, but there's a part of our brain that's been making life and death decisions before we could speak. That's the part of the brain that's going to decide whether they're going to buy or not. So that should put your sales presentation in perspective. People don't need a sales presentation to decide if they like you and what you're presenting.
Well, Sid, you've been doing all the talking, and then you quit. You just froze there for a second.
Oh, did I? Okay.
I think you're giving us a
Okay, I thought
dramatic
that was me.
pause, but it took a second to realize it was your connection.
Yeah. All
That
right.
was perfect timing. Okay.
I'm always amazed at I have a fancy VoIP desk phone set up, that records and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes I'll be in the middle of a session. We'll get to a really kind of intense point, and the phone will just go out. I just tell people they're that powerful. They can disconnect the line. Anyway, it's amazing how often that happens. So you're getting the idea there. This is much more about, connecting with people and treating people with honor and respect. Because you've got great products and people need your help, and all this weird sales energy that you got to go out and talk people into stuff, to me, it's just, it's a disservice to everybody. So anyway, I wanted to give you one other quick technique because when you're asking questions, that's why when we got cut off there, you get some analytical guys. If you ask them why something important, they won't be able to answer it. They just never thought about it. And so one of the ways to deal with that is just say, well, let me tell you what my answer to that would be. Because again, we're socialized to do kind of what we call free association. If we're all going out to have a beer, I'm going to tell my story. That's going to remind you of your story. And then you're going to want to tell your version. I mean, that's the way most people interact. So the way you use that in an interviewing situation is if somebody has trouble answering a question, or they're not sure, or you get the deer in the headlights look, your first response is, "Oh, forget that question. Let me ask you a different one." Or you say, "Well, let me tell you what my answer to that question is." And you just watch them, because they'll get their answer in seconds. You don't need to finish your answer. Because if I start saying, "Well, here's why this would be important to me," as soon as I start talking, it usually takes about 3 seconds for people to get their answer. And then you say, "It looks like you got an answer. What's your answer?" Because they can't wait to talk once they've got their answer. But anyway, those are a couple of neat tricks just to be a good interviewer, because that's what it's all about. If you're taking what I call the low-key approach, this is all about a combination of being a good interviewer and teaching people what they need to know to make a decision. There's absolutely no sales technique ever. All that does is alienate people. So again, I've had a lot of fun with that over the years. So that my average client's got over 90% closing ratio with zero sales technique. And again, when I started talking about Algranum, I don't think I finished that. It's that 90% plus closing ratio is not man on the street. There's 3 key elements. It's chemistry, timing, and money. Chemistry being the most important. You need to like each other. That's chemistry. Timing, they need to have a need for something you're offering. And 3, they got to have money to buy it. If you've got those 3 things, you should be closing most of them. All right. Let me see what else.
And being okay moving on if you don't have all those 3. It's not about you. You didn't fail. It's just those things just weren't there.
And chemistry is the most important. Keep track of the people you have chemistry with, because a lot of them end up with money. You never know who those people are. The bigger the army you've got of people that like you, the more phone calls you're going to get down the road. I need your help.
Or hackers.
Well, yeah, we don't want to give them any more attention.
No, we don't. But still, that was fun.
We didn't have any chemistry with them.
No, not at all.
No. Let's see. So what else? I think the other thing a lot of times is, the more you can really get people to see that this is all about them, that's kind of the initial message. Well, let me say it a different way. The bigger perspective, the big question you're always answering is, what do you want with your money that you don't have? That's where the sale is. You don't just ask that question but all of your other questions are leading you to get information, get lots of pieces about, so you can find out that piece. What is it that this person wants that they don't have? And of course, that's the other thing. If it's a new client, you want to sell people what they want, not what they need. Make them a client, and then you got the rest of your career to sell them what they need. Because you want that first sale. Again, because if you can have a 90% closing ratio, you're making lots of money, even if you're making small sales. And it's a lot more fun too. When you're closing 20%, there's a lot of work that's not going anywhere. And a lot of people are doing that. I get these calls from people that are signing up with First Family Life or whatever it is, and they tell them that they can go out and they're going to give them leads, and they can go out and sell term insurance to people that have no money. Yeah, that's a lot more work than you think.
Yeah.
It's like, Most of those people don't last very long, but I get lots of questions from those folks. Well, so that's kind of a quick overview. I've got a few minutes for questions or other conversation. Probably got another 10 minutes and I've got a hard stop. Thoughts, comments, questions?
I'm sorry,
I think
everybody. I have a
it's
quick question, if that's okay.
Go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
Seems like there's a lot of professionals in here, and I was just wondering, how do you guys get your updates on, rates and product changes, different cap level changes on IULs?
That's your IMO's job, and that's not the focus of this call.
Yeah,
But your IMO should be sending that stuff out to you.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no
Let's
problem.
stick interviewing, anything related to interviewing, anybody that's, stumping you. I guess the other philosophically to me, I'm somewhat of I call myself spiritual, not religious, but I mean, a couple of the things, one of the things that I like to say to people is, your job is to find the people God wants you to help. I mean, that's a nice new paradigm for a lot of people. It's not,
Nope.
Oh, we stopped him again.
and
All the
you know-
power here, Sid. You just paused. Okay, so we want to help the people that God wants us to help.
yeah, or find those people. In
Okay.
other words, there's lots of people out there that need your help. So whatever you call it, God or universe or something, but there's definitely a magic. That's my next book. This reality is way more magical than we realize, and we can't explain how it works exactly. But I mean, I teach people that all the time on the phone. I typically can double. I have a lot of real estate clients right now, a lot of women. And they typically will double their income within a couple months simply by getting on the phone an hour a day. And most of the income doesn't come from the phone calls. Just the fact that you're dialing the phone and showing a risk and a commitment to your business will drive business in the door. How's that? Totally non-logical. Wait a minute.
That's
It's
awesome.
mystical, but it's according to natural
I call
law somehow. Yeah,
I call it mystical momentum.
that's right.
So,
Story.
Sid, I actually have a question.
ahead.
In regards to, I guess, pre-existing chemistry, if you will, when working with relatives, or controlled business, and I'm having difficulty penetrating my own family. It seems as if we go to Thanksgiving dinner. I don't want to hear about insurance. I know everything I need to know. And then I turn around and they're asking me to review a policy for them, and I'm like, well, I thought you knew all you needed to know. But what I've found is it seems like they want my assistance, but they don't want to trust me with their information. I don't know.
Well, again, the main thing when you're working with family and friends, you want to give them a way out up front. And just,
Okay.
I mean, to me, I did a lot of work with friends. I knew a lot of people when I was younger. I was a good hockey player, and I managed an ice arena for a year before I got into the business. So I knew hundreds of younger guys, and sold a lot of insurance to that group. But to me, that I would always say to people, life insurance is probably one of the most misunderstood products out there. There's a lot of great things you can do with it. I'd sell them on, would you like to learn more about how it works, kind of thing. And then of course I worked with a lot of people that I knew. So I would say, there's nothing to buy here. This is all educational. And if you decide you want to work with me, great. And if you don't, that's okay too. So the same approach applies to family. You got to sit down and have a heart to heart with them. Do you want some help? I'm happy to help you. I'm willing to teach you everything I know. And then you can decide if you want to work with me or not. But it's like, get out of this, no, I don't want to hear about insurance, but can you explain this policy to me? You got to clean that up.
Okay.
Get a commitment of some kind. Do you want help or not?
Gotcha.
All right, Alana raised her hand very politely and digitally. Please.
So you were talking about, spiritual and everything. So I recently joined church, And the way that I got to the church is I met a woman that belongs to this church, and I was explaining to her that I was an agent and everything. And so then she was like, well, my church had been trying to find an agent that could come and help the whole church get insurance. So I was like, okay. And so I wanted to build a relationship with the church first so that they would get to know me. And I wound up falling in love with the church. I've actually the church, but I've not yet let them know what I do. They know that I have a farm and, you know, that aspect, they're buying eggs from me and stuff. But for the insurance business, I haven't let them know yet. So how would I begin to open up that box?
Well, one thing I've seen a lot of people do is if you like to speak, you know, go in and do a presentation on, you know, what smart people are doing with their money. That's a service to the church. That's one way to do it. Otherwise, you just need to be careful. You don't want to be, you know, get known as a person that's using the church to write business, you know. So the more you give people a way out, the more I call it permission-based selling. I mean, just whatever you're doing, always get permission to do it. So I'm helping people do better with their money, or I'm on a major campaign this year to help everybody I know in your town do better with their money, you know, and I'm teaching people, you know, what smart people are doing there. Is that something that might be of interest to you? Do you want to do better with your money?
Okay.
That's a permission-based kind of approach, because you want to be inviting and intriguing and ask a question. And then if you get a yes, then you can do the next step. But it's especially in a church environment or any place, you know, like where there's a community of some kind, you know, the more you can approach it by giving and making sure people have a way out, nobody's going to complain. I mean, they might, but it's not going to be any big deal because you're not pushing anybody. The only time everybody gets upset is when you push people.
Yeah, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be a sales agent like that. No.
But you do want to be able to ask inviting and intriguing questions, because there are people that do want help. So you do need to pitch what you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I'm sorry. The two things came to my mind as you were talking, Alana. First, when I was at the Professionals Forum last week, Van Miller dropped this great question, and that's the number one takeaway I took from it, which is, at the very least, even if you did nothing of what we talk about, wouldn't you at least want to know? Which it essentially says, I'm okay with you doing nothing, but wouldn't you at least want to know what your options are? So to me, that's
not really a permission-based question. Van's got a lot of questions like those.
He's got some leading ones, absolutely.
That wouldn't be one I would ask. I mean, to me, the key question is, do you want to know?
Yeah, would it matter?
By saying,
you want to know?
You want to know? You know, that I don't like that.
And then the other thing that came to mind, because I've worked with several members of my faith, and one of the things I talk about right up front, I said, you know, I just want to make sure that not only you're comfortable, but I want to make sure we differentiate that this is business. This is not, I don't need you to do business with me just because I'm a member of the congregation. And I want you to make sure that you're going through everything as you would with anybody else. And this is your business. This is your financial affairs. I'm going to serve you the best way I can, but I don't expect you to do business with me just because I'm in the congregation. That kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's good. That cleans it up. Because the more you give people a way out,
that's awesome.
The safer they feel.
Yeah.
You know, there isn't anything we're going to do that you can't say no to. I'm going to tell you that right up front. This is not about me trying to talk you into buying a product so you can relax. That's in my language. Did I do my opening language? I think I did it. Yeah, I did. You know, but again, you're trying to the quickest way, because that's what triples your closing ratio when you're convincing people that you're on their side. It's like you want to make it kind of dumb not to work with you, because they can't. I used to say that to people all the time. You can't lose with me. Whatever you want to do is what we're going to do. You know, because people like that. You know, because they're used to having somebody try to talk them into a corner.
And pouncing them and hounding them the entire time, and you're just trying to get away. And it depends on who's got the longer endurance, you to resist them or them to keep pouncing you.
One of my favorite lines is this: "I'm so low key, you got to let me know if you want to buy something." All right. So I got about one more minute and I got to get ready for another call. This has been, what's the word?
I'm thinking eventful.
Yeah, I've never done a Zoom call like this before. I tell you.
Sorry. But we're gonna work out. I'm gonna save the recording, clean it up, and I'll repost it appropriately. But Sid, thank you so much. You've dropped a few nuggets here for us all to learn from. And
Yeah, you bet.
I'll make sure that I throw in some links when I repost the edited one. I've got all your links so people can check you out, and especially your books on Amazon, your Fearless Prospecting course, the Selling Without Wrestling resource there that you have for everybody. Absolutely fantastic. So
Great.
So
All
thank
right,
you very
thanks.
much, Sid. And
Thanks
we'll
so
catch you
much,
up for the
David,
next
and
one.
All right. See you later. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you to both of